Greetings. I am Dr. Noni Davis coming to you from Durham, North Carolina, St. C Academy. And as always, I begin with the Thanksgiving to my father, the late William Edward Davis, and my mother, Sylvia Davis, who co founded St. C with me 30 years ago. And here I am here today, just passing on some little Black history tips that I've learned and studied and would just like to share with you. So, this is Black August. This is Black August month, and we have been doing Black August now for a few years, quite a few years. I think it's the 1970s when this celebration popped off as a result of Africans being unfairly incarcerated in these United States. Um, so it is a monthly observance of those who have actively engaged in the struggle for liberation and justice for those of African descent who have been subjugated um, and imprisoned, most often unfairly with unfair sentences. Without due process or a fair system of due process and corrupt trials and all kinds of things, and we're still experiencing that today. Poor Camilla, I think Camelo, I can't remember his last name, but yeah, that young man. Black August began in response to the unethical and unjust incarceration of the Soledad brothers back in August of 1970. Also, at that time, you had Angela Davis, who is also placed on the most wanted list. She was the third woman to be posted on that list in American history. And imagine she didn't even kill nobody. She was just in the space, but she hadn't done anything. And so these men and Angela Davis were falsely accused of murder or instead of self-defense, and so they you know both the brothers, the Soledad brothers, and Angela Davis ended up in imprisoned. So the focus of this month is to remember the horrible historical treatment of Africans through the penal system. And so I visited this site called nokidsinprison.org, this website, and it published an article that I thought was very interesting. In there, it's called "Building Power in the Spirit of Black August," and it was published August 14th, 2024. This article began, and I was like, "Wow, this is interesting," with 1619, and it discusses the arrival of these Africans on August 20th, 1619, to Jamestown, or what was it, whatever, Oak Colony, someplace like that. But anyway, it began in that area, Pine something. That's how much I care about it. But it was in Jamestown, and they arrived from the land of Ndongo, which is in what we now call Angola. They were on a ship called the Sao João Batista, which was a Portuguese ship headed to Mexico. No, yeah, headed to Mexico to transport these people to the Spanish colony located there, and it was intercepted by the White Lion and the Treasurer, and both of these were British vessels. And they say that they were under British privateers, but they were just pirates. And these Africans had been captured and tortured, transported from the ship, from the from the Ndongo Empire, and they said they were starving. The description of them in the reporting of that time frame said that they were hungry, they poorly fed, and of course, they had made this trek across the Atlantic, so I'm not surprised. but they were in poor condition. However, these pirateers were trying to get some money, so they took them to the closest British colony so that they could also exchange them for goods, and so that they could make it head back to England. Um, Now, these folks did at that time they hadn't established slavery, so they were here among British people, mostly poor, folks who were urban and who had no skills, apparently none. Um, and so, even though they were enslaved people before there were actually legal laws for that, they were allowed. Some of them were able to become free and purchase their freedom, and were able to purchase land and start families and engage in this community. Because remember, this is 1619. So, what do we know about these first enslaved Africans? Well, the Ndongo Empire was ruled. That area was ruled by what's her name, Queen Nzinga. That area, anyway. And I just wanted to show some pictures of. They said it was very organized. This is a picture of it. You have housing, you have the a community in the middle. It was encircled, and all of these are the fields, the agricultural fields. And then, as you can see, they had a perimeter around it. And so they said that the Ndongo people in this same, I know I visited this site. This site was called what is it? Hampton Roads, the Hampton History Museum in Hampton, Virginia. And but I just wanted to say that initially, like most African countries, this trafficking was thought to be payment towards establishing an empire in a foreign land. But as the Europeans kept returning, more and more resistant, the leadership in Africa became more and more resistant to selling their people to the Europeans. Now, this wasn't the case even always with Angola, because one of the reasons why one of their chieftains was upset was because he said, "Hey, I want the slave trade to come through my country. I don't want it to come through, another state." So he didn't have any integrity. He was a horrible African ruler. But but for most of these places, they were like, "Look, I know." Nzinga was like, "Why are y'all still taking people? You've gotten enough people, and also you're dwindling our community down to so you don't have the same number of enslaved. You have no, you don't have. We're losing our skilled labor, we're losing our youth, and you're destroying our communities. And so y'all got to stop." And of course, the Portuguese to say, "Well, we'd rather fight than release this." And as we know now, these uh, there was a reason, which I'll get to shortly. So the Ndongo people who were the Ndongo people and what was their culture? According to Hampton History Museum, these communities during the 1600s were pretty advanced. The Angolas of Ndongo created an agricultural society with a population of about 30,000 people, um, within urban and suburban communities. They were highly skilled in the metallurgy. They were artisans. They were carpenters. They were skilled in textiles and ironsmithing, and so they were organized people. They were industrialized, but also advanced agriculture. So a lot of the industry occurred, Ogun is the Orisha of iron. So because of this discovery of iron, they were able to cultivate tools, um, and shovels, hoes, spears, swords, all of these things that were metal, um, metals so that they could, cut down trees and all that kind of stuff. I read somewhere that prior to Africans entering, like, uh, South America, um, it would take like several days or to cut down a tree, and because Native Americans did not have the metals that they had in Africa, and so um, they didn't have that technology, and so once Africans started coming to, these plantations, the workload for felling trees and for clearing land was cut significantly, to from a week or two to a day or two, and so that was industrialization in Africa. It is also possible that the Ndongo captors were Christian, because back in the 1500s, early 1500s, when the Portuguese came, they said that one of the reasons why the Ndongo and the people of Angola were so easy, willing to adapt Christianity, is because they had a similar uh, um, spiritual practice. And so, as early as 1500s, these when the Portuguese arrived, they had a spiritual system that many of the people the Ndongo people of Angola had no problem with conversion. Um, and so they were excited. They had a they were industrialized. They were advanced in several skills, like I said, carpentry, textiles, and ironsmithing and agriculture, and they were probably Christian. So when these Africans arrived in America, they were the skilled labor. These Europeans were able to craft iron, but the Africans already knew how to use these tools because they had already forged them. Um, they also knew how to farm. These Europeans had no idea what were they growing. Potatoes. They did not have any concept of growing rice, like it was in South Carolina. They didn't know how to grow cotton, and they did not know how to plant and grow tobacco. They did not have agricultural skills. Now, they were the ones who knew how to farm. They were blacksmiths, and they were also comfortable, able to adjust to the climate in this area in Virginia, because even though they said Angola was drier, it was still they still were able to cultivate um, the uh, the food, and they were able to adapt to the weather. And so your Europeans were poor, they were unskilled, and incapable of working in the Virginia climate. Um, they were also aware, like I said, they were also aware of Christianity. These Africans were aware of that. So without these Africans from Ndongos, from Ndongo, the American colonies of Virginia would not have survived. And this is the proof. They keep trying to tell us, oh, we rescued y'all because y'all were swinging from trees and huts and all of that. But wait a minute, were we actually the ones that had the skills to save you without us? Because this is clearly stating that that colony would never, in Jamestown, would never have survived without the African labor. So imagine being called lazy and dumb and uncivilized and created for servitude to the dumbest, unskilled, backwards people of the time. Um, and I'm not hesitating to say that I said what I said, because I'm like, Lord have mercy. So these Europeans um, came all the way to the Americas, came here to Turtle Island with no skills. Uh, they were planning to plant tobacco and grow it with no understanding of how to grow it or any kind of food here. Um, and they were not farmers, and they were not skilled laborers, And now we understand why so many of these white folks died here because they could not figure out how to survive here. But we also see the depravity of taking and stealing the skills and the intelligence and the hard labor of our ancestors to build their livelihoods, um, communities, regions, and empires, and they call us stupid and uncivilized. It's just unbelievable. So this was the first story that was listed in on that website. Let me repeat that website because it's like I'm gonna try to keep what up with it. Um, the let's see, no kids in prison.org. I love it. So therefore, Black August is considered, according to Black August Poe, okay, this is another website I found, po.org, to be a commemoration of all the freedom fighters committed to our liberation, beginning with the earliest rebellions at sea, on land, on plantations, in cities and rural areas, on the continent of Africa, and here in America, to the diaspora of the Americas and Europe. Um, and so when we think of August 1970 to 1971, when our people chose liberation against the police, we must remember Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosser, Frederick Douglass, Martin Delaney, the members of the spy ring of the Civil War and Revolutionary Wars. We have to remember Harriet, Fannie Lou, and Ella, Martin, Malcolm, and Muhammad Ali. Um, we have to remember our forefathers and foremothers, our great grandparents, our great grandfathers and grandmothers, our grandparents and grandmothers, and parents, our parents who displayed their opposition to white supremacy or white supreme stupidity, is what I prefer to call it. And I remember my father being actively engaged. He would pull us over on the side of the road when we were driving to through Princess Anne County, and say, "Hey, you see this marker? This is where Nat Turner threw down," and give us a really short history. And he worked with political organizations to make sure we had our, we saw him actively uh, working uh, politically to make sure that we have the rights that we deserve. Um, so another area that I wanted to talk about were these colonies, and these were also on this Black August p.po.org site. This is crazy. So according to an article of, okay, wait a minute, in August 16th, 1768, Charleston, South Carolina, the British versus the Maroons. According to an article, Maroon camps on the Savannah River swamps were continuously attacked by the British. Um, they continuously engaged in military conflicts with these Maroon communities that were composed of indigenous people and Africans who created these settlements. And some Maroon communities are usually in swampy areas where there's not easy access. And so they one of the commentaries was like, since Africans have been here, they have been escaping. And we know that's true for the Great Dismal Swamp, which is located between um, South Hill and uh, the border between of North Carolina, between South Hill and uh, it's on our side. I can't remember what it is, but it's right there on the border between Virginia and North Carolina. Um, Going down the highway a bit, so about an hour, I guess, about an hour from here. And so African people would go into these settlements, and sometimes, they said it would just be a few people, sometimes it'd be a lot more, but they were escaping into the swamps and into mountainous regions where it was not easy to be detected. And these communities often hid deep in the woods, but also came out incandescently. So they would come out at night or during certain phases of the moon to raid these plantations, and striking fear into European colonists. Now, apparently by August 1768, these communities had expanded considerably due to Africans were escaping plantations. They said one plantation lost 100 people in like one day or something, or within a year. I don't know, but they said they had lost 107 people of their enslaved Africans, and this was driving these white people crazy because they're like, "Oh my God, where do these black people go?" And they were aware that these people were probably going to stage, some attacks on them. I'm pretty sure well deserved. Anyway, you killing my babies, selling my babies, beating me, raping, all this foolishness that they were doing. And so, yeah, it's retaliatory. Yeah, of course. And they said that these maroon communities, because they were isolated, once again, I said America did not have those uh, iron, the metals, the way that Africa had these metals. So even though they escaped, they were not able to forge the tools that they needed. So what did they do? They raided the plantations, and they would sneak in there, and they would, steal all kinds of tools and axes, and weaponry, in addition to food, because it was very difficult to survive in those spaces. So, and then oh yeah, so they would slaughter cows and just take that stuff with them. Now, some of these communities could be as small as 40 people, while others had as many as 100. Um, but the British were having a hard time. Um, these escapees would run into these swampy areas. And the reason it was difficult, like I said, to squash these rebellions because where they were located. We know that Europeans had a very difficult time with mosquitoes, and so a lot of them were dying from fever and malaria, which is something that Africans had already developed an immunity to. They also were full of like poisonous snakes, alligators, crocodiles, whatever in that area, and other wild animals. And so, if you want to escape, you probably would rather deal with a cougar or some kind of swamp wolf or whatever, or canine, rather than deal with these white people. So Africans made that sacrifice. They said, we going out here in these woods, and we are going to figure out a way to survive. But it was also swampy, so you can't. It was very difficult to get there by horseback, and so the Europeans went in there. They had to go on foot most of the time in order to get in there. Um, and so this area was just difficult to travel. Now, even though the British were continuously attacking, and they were also hiring indigenous people and other black folks, they said, "Look, if you help us find these people and track them down, then we will pay you." And for a lot of these black folks who were engaged in this activity, they were like, "Well, what am I going to get?" And sometimes it would be freedom. If you help us capture these maroons, we will guarantee your freedom. And so they did these maroon communities, even though they were often interracial, they would have, French. I mean, no, I'm sorry. They would have indigenous people and Africans engage. Um, there were also other Indian and Native American groups who were willing to come and hunt them down. Um, Even though the British continually attacked these maroon communities, only a few Africans were killed. So they said that the people were had mastered the terrain. They were able to navigate the area, and they said they could literally disappear into the woods, and you wouldn't be able to catch them. And so I know I read a story called oh my goodness, it wasn't the swamp. What was it called? Freetown, I think so. Uh, but anyway, it was about a story about the Great Dismal Swamp where Africa they had a village, and they said these villages could the housing could be like a 1,700 square foot house, um, maybe or sometimes smaller constructions. They would have cleared out the area. They had their cornfields and their rice fields, and they were growing their food. So they literally have created spaces where they were free. And it is believed that some of these Maroons, like I said earlier, had been around since slavery started in South Carolina. So, which was like probably what the 1700s or something like that, because we were Virginia and then South Carolina, and of course we had down in Florida. You already had Africans down there, but they were not playing. So so it's believed that they had several of them, and like I said, they could be as small as 40 people, and sometimes as many as 100 people or more. Now, some of the other revolts in August include Gabriel Prosser's plan to launch. So his revolution was supposed to start August 30th, 1800. Then you had on August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner in Virginia, who I mentioned earlier. So August is full of revolt. So there was one in August 29th in 1841. Some Africans got into it with some white folks in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they had a whole brawl. Um, August 1856 in North Carolina. I'm going to find out more about this one. They had a fugitive slaves and some slaveholders got into a brawl, and it said that in that one, that particular dust up, only slaveholders died. I was like, slave. That's all. In August of 1856, right here in North Carolina. Oh, right. So I will be doing more research. And then August 1860, apparently down in Talladega County, Alabama, there was a plot revealed that some Africans and some Europeans were conspiring to overthrow the government there in Alabama. I'm like, do the people in Alabama know about this history? And there were just so many. I had to stop because I was like, whoa. So this month of August has a lot of revolutionary history, um, of Africans um, standing up for their rights and fighting. And I swear, I don't know if in this time, if we're not going to have to fight. I don't know. Um, it's getting dangerous in America. And so um, it's nice to know that Black August in the Park is not just Black people singing Kumbaya. It is Black people taking a stand and standing their ground and being very deliberate about pursuing their peace. As I said last week, one of the when I was speaking of a mentor of Fidel Castro, he said, "You don't ask for freedom, you take it, you take it." And so, maybe that's where we are. Ashe, ashe. I don't know where.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
Hey, John, I hate to bother you, but I got a question for you that I should know the answer to.
The only trick you need to save time and money is to shop at Aldi. Aldi. Shop differently. Limitless length plus volume. Sensational from every angle. New Lash Sensational Sky High Mascara. Only from Maybelline, New York. Everything that touches your baby should be this comforting. Pamper Swaddlers. The #1 choice of hospitals is 2 times softer. All right, Travago. Find me a hotel somewhere in Thailand where I can wake up with a view of the ocean. Awesome. The future. It's impossible to see. And when it's finally here, it might not be what you'd expect. It might just be better. Introducing Luxury Electric. Introducing Lucid Air. We're for those who love to discover, who don't need to travel to find something new, and who know when you spend less, you can discover even more at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. Smooth, velvety chocolate wrapped in precious gold. Ferrero Rocher.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mother.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.